breaking news tonight is that meeting between the ex-Congress Chief Minister Amarinder Singh and Home Minister Amit Shah. For the latest, let's go across to all our reporters tracking this story. And first, Arvind, it's over to you because we know that apparently the Amit Shah meeting with Captain Amarinder Singh has ended, but it's not very clear yet what's next for Captain Singh. What are the details you have?
Yeah, Sonia, Captain Amarinder Singh, the former Chief Minister of Punjab, arrived at the residence of Union Home Minister Amit Shah somewhere close to 6 p.m. and then the meeting went on for over 45 minutes. The meeting went on till 6:45 p.m. But what is very interesting and also what is very surprising is that after the meeting, when the convoy of Captain Amarinder Singh left, Amarinder Singh was not present in that car in which he arrived at the residence of Home Minister Amit Shah. At the same time, a convoy from the residence, other gate of Home Minister Amit Shah left from the residence, and what we are being told is that in order to avoid the media, Captain Amarinder Singh used the convoy and the car of Home Minister Amit Shah to leave the residence of Home Minister Amit Shah. So we are not sure where Captain Amarinder Singh left after the meeting with Home Minister Amit Shah. So what BJP sources are saying is that they are actually seeing an opening in Punjab with Captain Amarinder Singh reaching out to BJP, because what BJP leaders are pointing out is that Captain Amarinder Singh, after stepping down as the Chief Minister of Punjab, is in Delhi for last 2 days, but he has not met Congress President Sonia Gandhi, but he has chosen to meet Union Home Minister Amit Shah. This BJP is looking as an opening for the party in Punjab, where the party is facing a massive challenge with the ongoing farmers' protest.
Right, and in fact, Akhilesh, as you've been saying, it's now a situation where the BJP doesn't have a captain, the captain doesn't have a party. So in that sense, it's a good alliance to make, but also much speculation that for Captain Amarinder Singh to go with the BJP, there has to be a major rethink of the BJP on farm laws. Anything you've heard on that?
Well, of course, I think that the BJP also wants to get out of this situation where, there's a standoff for the past 1 year and the BJP is facing a lot of, anger among the farmers, and especially in the coming elections, which is very crucial for the party in Uttar Pradesh, and also Haryana, which is, the BJP's own government is actually facing a lot of protests. So party wants to get out of this, and of course, Captain Amarinder Singh can provide that kind of a solution. And as you rightly said, that the captain doesn't have a party and the BJP doesn't have a captain. So it suits both of them to come together. We know that the BJP has been in alliance in Punjab with the Akali Dal for the past 40 years. For the past 4 decades, they were together, but on these farm laws, the Akali Dal broke the alliance with the BJP, and now the BJP is on its own. The party has the mass base only in the urban areas of Punjab, and of course, BJP believes that by taking the urban votes and also with the scheduled caste votes, it can actually show some performance, because in the past assembly election, BJP managed to win only 3 assembly seats and Akali Dal only 17. So BJP thinks that it can have some chance if captain comes along.
And in fact, just on the broader political picture, Srinivasan, because really the Sidhu aftershocks seem to have had ramifications across states, because now you've got in Delhi, you've seen the G23 rebel leaders in a sense come out very vocally there. Also, and an interesting aspect which both Akhilesh and you are looking at, that the mention of Pakistan's now, is that looking at a possible central role in Punjab? Could there possibly be president's role? And Mamata Banerjee and the Congress now also emerging as fighting with each other, with Abhishek Banerjee making very strong statements against the Congress today. Remember, this is when the Congress hasn't fielded a candidate against Mamata Banerjee. So 2 or 3 big political developments there.
Sure, let's try and unpack these one by one, Sonia. Let's just start with Punjab, since that's the immediate story before us. That, look, while there certainly seems to be enough reason for both the BJP and Amarinder to seek each other out, the fact is that there is a challenge for the captain. It's true that he doesn't have a party, but is it the BJP that he'd like to align himself with? Because the BJP has very little political capital in Punjab, and it'll be a challenge for Amarinder Singh to inherit that. Number 2, we also know, Sonia, that Captain Amarinder himself was on a weak wicket at the time when he was sacked as Chief Minister. There was tremendous amount of anti-incumbency against him. In fact, when he actually broke with the Congress, not a single MLA came to his side. So it is going to be a dilemma for both these forces, while it's in their interest to come together to negotiate how it's done. Is it going to be directly by Captain Amarinder joining the BJP, or he floats a regional party with the backing of the BJP? These are all the questions which still remain unanswered. But of course, the wider point, as you mentioned, is the fact that now the aftershocks of Punjab have reached the doorstep, as it were, of the Gandhi Parivar, particularly the Gandhi siblings. I think the G23 and others within the Congress who've been watching the unraveling of the party have been sort of holding their horses, keeping their powder dry. But I think this latest trigger of Punjab has pushed these people to come forward and start demanding answers from the leadership. So I think what we're seeing, Sonia, is just the first example of the rumblings of dissent becoming public. As we progress further, as the Congress continues to unravel, we saw the exit in Goa, we saw earlier the exit in Assam, we're seeing the crisis in Punjab, we'll see these voices getting louder and louder.
In fact, Akhilesh, I just had to come back to you because we discussed farm laws, but there's also one other aspect of which the ex-chief minister could be meeting the home minister. This point being made again and again that Punjab is a border state, that Pakistan will benefit from political uncertainty. Is there some kind of ground being laid for central rules since elections are not far? Would that be constitutionally viable?
Well, that opportunity was with the Captain Amarinder Singh when he was the chief minister. Had he recommended resolution of the assembly, that the centre would have happily agreed to that, but he missed that opportunity. But of course, national security is something and nationalism is something which brings both of them together, though there are differences between the two factions as far as the farm laws are concerned, but the national security issue is something which can brought them together. And of course the BJP has been pointing it out, and if I recall correctly, that when Captain Amarinder Singh was the chief minister, when he came to meet Home Minister Amit Shah, that time also he mentioned that centre has to do something about the farmers registration, because Punjab being the border state, it's a very sensitive matter there, and that's why he also talked about the national security at that point of time. So of course this is one of the very big ground on which the centre can move ahead, but it all depends how situation unfolds within the Congress party, because we have seen that so far there is no attempt by the Congress High Command to appease Navjot Singh Sidhu, who has resigned.
In fact, I just want to go across also, Akhilesh, on that separately on that point you're making, what you talk about, Vasu. Now we're seeing their shots of Congress workers protesting outside Kapil Sibal's house after he made those strong remarks with roses and posters saying "Get well soon, Kapil Sibal." So let's just hear what Kapil Sibal actually had to say. Now, of course, you pointed out the dissent, but to the Congress, Ajay Markan responding, saying, what does Kapil Sibal really have in terms of political standing too? But let's just look, those visuals there coming from outside Kapil Sibal's house right now, and why Congress workers are so angry with Kapil Sibal.
In our party, at the moment, there is no president. So we don't know who is taking these decisions. We know and yet we don't know. एक बात तो स्पष्ट है, हम जी हजूर 23 नहीं है, ये तो बात स्पष्ट है, ठीक है ना। हम अपनी बात रखेंगे और रखते जाएंगे, और जो अपनी मांगे हैं वो हम दोहराएंगे। हमारे लोग हमें छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, तो सवाल उठता ये है कि क्यों जा रहे हैं लोग। हम इतना तो जरूर कह सकते हैं कि उनकी निंदा भी कर सकते हैं कि क्यों पार्टी छोड़ के चले गए, लेकिन शायद हमें यह भी सोचना होगा, खुद से पूछना होगा, हो सकता है हमारी भी शायद कोई गलती रही हो। We are not one of those who will leave the ideology of the party and go anywhere else. In fact, it's ironic कि जो लोग इनके खासम खास थे वो तो इनको छोड़ के चले गए, और जो लोग ये समझते हैं इनके खासम खास नहीं हैं वो आज भी इनके साथ खड़े हैं। I don't want to talk about Punjab, but a border state where this is happening to the Congress party means what? It's an advantage to the ISI in Pakistan. We know the history of Punjab and the rise of extremism there. We know how forces across the border exploit the situation.
वही सोनिया गांधी अध्यक्ष हैं कांग्रेस पार्टी की, जिन्होंने सिब्बल साहब को बार बार मंत्री बनाया, बगैर कांग्रेस के लगातार बैकग्राउंड होने के सीधे सीधे मंत्री बना दिया। और ये सब लोगों को समझना चाहिए अच्छे से कि कांग्रेस वो संगठन है जिसने इन सब लोगों को पहचान दी है। तो कम से कम जिस संगठन ने इनको पहचान दी है उसके बारे में तो मीडिया के अंदर ओपनली इस तरीके से तिरस्कार ना करें कम से कम।